That's got to be, I mean, you have, like you said, over 80 athletes,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, roughly.
So, like, how do you personally, like, keep tabs on, like, everybody? Like, that's got to be damn near impossible at this point.
Yeah, I mean, I do have some help. I have an assistant coach that helps me out with that, you know. One assistant, and he's been with me for 3 years now, so he kind of takes it, like right now, he's working with the guys today, you know. But, I mean, always having numbers on them and making sure that we know the schedules at hand. And then from there, I would get in a full assessment, you know, full physiological assessment, understanding, you know, their strengths, their weaknesses, things like that. And then I want to see exactly like, okay, what's the overall training load? What's the workload throughout the week? And a lot of times I only may see them 2 times a week in the weight room. Other than that, they're doing their conditioning and they're always doing their skills training.
Yeah.
So, you know, with that, the proper programming is put into place, and then I make sure that either we run off Prillipin's chart where we can manage out, okay, the overall fatigue. If I don't know their maximum recoverable volume based off of the test that we've done, let's say, for instance, I got guys coming from like Dagestan and, you know, and Poland and things like that where I don't know much about them. So when they come in and they're 6 weeks out, well, you know, that's not a whole lot of time. We're good?
You got it.
We're good. I was getting nervous.
I was like, what's going on?
I know we're not in trouble.
Your Dagestan and then a bunch of beeps.
That's it. As soon as I said that, I'm like, oh shit, they're coming for me. Dustin. But yeah, and then like for like a lot of my guys will wear heart rate monitors too as well, and I want to make sure I'm gauging the intensities based off the heart rate monitor. You know, especially with the conditioning, you know, and then also do it with the skills training too, especially when they're sparring. I want to see how much they can push it and where they're going to be when it comes down to. A lot of times their threshold is usually sitting around 175, 180, and that's really when they're pushing it, you know, in sparring. And a lot of my guys have maximal heart rates up in the 210s, 215s.
Yeah.
My Dustin VO2 max is up in the 60s, you know, so I mean his ability to manage stress is high. And that if you make it to that level, you have to have that ability, you know, mentally and physically, you have to be able to cope with the stresses put upon you. So with that, we don't want to smash them even more in a controlled environment. I want to make sure that they're getting the optimal amount of training, not the maximal amount.
On that note, I want to ask you this, and this is kind of there's going to be 2 parts to this. I know that all the fighters you work with, you probably have different cardio protocols for them because they all have different demands with all their different coaches. But with the example I gave you for like someone who is getting into some boxing or they're getting into some jiu-jitsu or some kind of martial art and they're lifting, but they want to become more conditioned for their sport, for that sport, right? And they don't want to lose a lot of strength or anything. What can they add into their weekly protocol to help their cardio out?
It really just depends on their weaknesses.
Okay.
You know, that you have to see through an assessment. You know, a lot of times you either there's a respiratory issue, whether it be, you know, they just need to increase their VO2 max. And that just could be just aerobic capacity work. And I know a lot of times the guys don't want to do long distance running and LSD work or something like that. You can do tempo runs, you know, you can do things with, you know, you can do things with the prowler that I like to do a lot. When it comes down to, let's say, local muscular endurance, right, you're looking at it more from a tempo method perspective. So if my guys are good as far as their breathing and they have a good respiratory rate, but they're fatiguing in their, let's say, their legs, right? So then we're gonna have to go ahead and we're gonna have to work the legs through a specific time frame. So what we'll do is we'll do tempo method off of camp before they start camp. So
Can you explain the tempo method just a little bit?
So let's say, for instance, you're doing a squat, right? We'll go ahead and do a tempo of a 3-0-3.
Okay.
Right? So 3 seconds eccentric, 0 seconds isometric, 3 seconds concentric. And they'll just run through that movement throughout time. And I either do a time-based, whether it be a minute, 2 minutes, something along the lines of that, very long in duration, but you're gonna build a little bit of hypertrophy there. But for the most part, you're just driving lactate into the muscle. Yeah. Right? So you're having the ability to buffer that lactate going further because you're putting the stress upon it. So, and then another thing we do is lactate retention. So I'll do a tempo method and then I'll go ahead and I'll superset that with the lactate retention, basically meaning I trap the lactate into the working muscle that allows it to buffer it in the long run, right? So again, we're putting that stress into that particular body part. It's able to cope with those stresses, and then from further on down the line, you'll be able to buffer it out a little bit more efficiently.
So as an example, how would that look with the squat? So you did the squat 303 for a minute to 2 minutes. What is the movement afterwards to trap that lactate?
All you got to do, just do a low squat, sit down into a position. You don't have to like sit in a, like, let's say just a isometric squat. You can actually sit into a low squat, hold on to the wall, especially if you have mobility issues, and you just trap that lactate into the muscle. Cal Dietz does this a lot too as well. Yeah. It sucks. And I'll do it a lot. I also do it with sled marches or prowler marches. And we'll put a substantial amount of weight on the prowler, and then have them work through that range in a concentric motion. So they're having to push. You know how it is with the prowler. Yeah. So they'll have to push when every step is a dynamic movement step. So you're actually getting that fast twitch muscle capacity, and every step's the start step. So they're explosive, right? And they have to do that for a longer duration. And we'll do that off of camp primarily, just to get the body ready to go and get a base of that athletic and that strength, going further into camp.
If you are a fighter or someone who wants to start training in MMA, listen up. My name is Phil Daru. I am the head performance coach of American Top Team. I train some of the elite MMA athletes in the world, such as Dustin Poirier, King Mo Lawal, Frankie Edgar, Junior Dos Santos, Edson Barboza, and Joanna Jedrzejczyk. Going to MMA gyms or hiring a personal trainer can get extremely expensive over time. So if you want to get in shape and train using the exact program of the top MMA fighters for an affordable one-time price, check out Fight Ready in the description below.